Hello everyone, Gaza Mutkash, and I welcome you all to this session on Python fundamentals for data tasks. So guys, let's have a look at the agenda for this session. Now, before proceeding with the agenda for this session, I'd like to give you a recap. In the previous session, we have implemented and set up the Anaconda and the Jupyter environment. We have discussed about introduction to Python, what are variables in Python, the different data types and operators that we can utilize in Python. Now, the agenda for today's session is conditional statements, for loop, while loop, and the loop control statements, namely break and continue. So guys, let's switch to the Jupyter notebook. So guys, conditional statements, let's say for conditional statements, for loop, while loop, functions and class, we use indentation. Now, what is referred to as indentation? Indentation is essentially one tab space. So this is the node that we have to be mindful about when we are implementing the conditional statements, for loop or even while loop, and even functions and classes. Now, what are conditional statements exactly? So conditional statements allow the users to, let's say, check one or multiple conditions. Means we can evaluate one or multiple conditions based on the conditional statements. So what are the different conditional statements that we have in Python? The different conditional statements are, we have if else, then we have let's say if elif, and we can also have if elif else. Let's see them one by one using examples. So guys, if we are using just if statement, right? If is simply used to check one condition. How do we check this condition? It can be any condition, all right, based on the operators that we have discussed so far. So I'll give you an example. For instance, I'm defining a number x, and the number x stands to be, let's say, 50. Now over here, I'm going to check if x mod, let's say, 5 double equal to 0. Now what does this line indicate? X when divided by 5, is it yielding the remainder 0? Because this mod operator returns the remainder, right? So over here I'm comparing whether or not x when divided by 5 yields the remainder 0. So if this condition is true, just observe the syntax: if followed by space followed by the condition and then followed by colon. After colon you have to press enter, and wherever the cursor starts blinking, that is the point where you need to start writing. Now over here I can say that x is divisible by 3, x is divisible by 5. All right, x is 50. So if it is divisible by 5, this is what I'm printing. Let's observe the output. I just need to run this by pressing shift enter. X is initially set up as 50. I'm checking x when divided by 5, does it yield the remainder 0? So if that is the case, it returns, this print statement gets executed. Now the space on the left side, this is referred to as indentation. All right, this space is referred to as indentation. Python does not have block code representation using the curly brackets, rather the indentation based syntax is used. Now to violate this, if I were to write the print statement starting from here, I'll end up getting an indentation error. See, this is the indentation error. So I can press tab, one tab space, this is the indented if block of code. All right. Now, what if the number is not divisible by 5? Suppose I'm writing maybe 42. This is not divisible by 5, right? So when this condition gets evaluated, only and only if it is true, the code written under the if statement gets executed. If it's not true, it won't be get executed. So I'll give you an alternate example. So I'll just copy paste this. Now instead of x as 50, I'm setting it as 42. Now there will be no output. As you can see, there is no output over here. Now to compensate for this fact that maybe if this condition is true, then I'm getting this output, but if this condition is false, then maybe I need to generate some other output, right? that is where else comes into picture. So for the same code, all right, for the same code over here, I'll be writing else, and then maybe I can mention that x is not divisible by 5. So now for n, it clearly mentions that 42 is not divisible by 5. But if I write, let's say 35, so I get the output 35 is divisible by 5. We have to be mindful of the fact that if has to be the first statement followed by the condition. There is no condition that needs to be mentioned in the else condition. In the else part of the code, you don't have to write any conditions. So this is how we can evaluate one and even two conditions. So if is only meant to check one condition, else is meant to check two conditions. All right. Now, if we want to check more than two conditions, right, that is when we need to use if, elif, else. So if we are using if, elif, else, we can check more than one conditions as well. Okay, let's try to frame a different example. Maybe over here, I'm defining, let's say, some application. The application of programming languages, let's say over here, I'm defining it as ML, as in the machine learning, right? Now, I'm simply going to check if application is equal to web development, web dev. Is it the case? If this is the case, then I'll print web development. Elif is used to define more than one condition, right? So this is the first condition that I've defined. I'm checking whether the application is web development. No. Next, I'm checking if the application is mobile app development. Then I'll print mobile app development. Next, I'm writing another condition. Elif application is, let's say, web dev. Then I'll be printing web dev. So this will be double equal to, because this is comparison operation, right? Now guys, as you can see, okay, web dev is already done. Over here I can write ML. What is my output? ML. This is the first condition. Only if this condition is true, this gets evaluated. This is the second condition. If the first condition is false and the second condition is true, then this gets evaluated. If the first is false, second is also false, but the third is true, then this gets evaluated. What if all of them become false? So if all of them becomes false, now maybe over here I can write, let's say, web dev mobile application development, then maybe game development. So over here I can also mention game dev, else print none. Now currently, is the first let's say variable assignment matches any of the conditions that we have mentioned over here? No, it does not match any of these conditions over here. So the output is going to be none. All right, over here, as we can see, the output is none. Why is it the case? Because the variable stores the value of machine learning, and it is not assigned, means we are not able to check it in any of the if or elif conditions. So the output obtained over here is none. Likewise, so guys, this is how we can utilize if else, and if elif else. Now we have something known as nested if as well. Nested if is used to write one if statement inside another if statement. So alternatively, we can club and an or with the if condition as well. So I'll give you an example. So suppose again I'm considering x as a number, maybe let's say 70. Now, okay, maybe let's say 42, or let's consider 60. X is 60. Now I'm checking if x mod, let's say, 3 is equal to 0. Next I'm checking if x mod 5 double equal to 0. So if this is the case, if 60 is divisible by 3, then I'm checking is 60 divisible by 5. So if this is the case, then over here I can mention x is let's say divisible by 3 and 5. If not, then I need to mention that x is divisible by 3. Now if you just observe this example, first I'm checking x, I've initialized x as 60, I'm checking if x is divisible by 3, I'm checking if x is divisible by 5. So if x is divisible by 3 and 5 both, then the output will be x is divisible by 3 and 5. And in this else, I've written if x is divisible by 3 because obviously it's not divisible by 5. So over here, if I write the number as 27, so observe the output, 27 is divisible by 3. But maybe I can mention not divisible by 5. Alright, now what if the number is not divisible by 3 and 5 both? So under that scenario, maybe I can write another else and print not divisible by 3 and 5 both. Alright, now over here if I mention, let's say 32. So for 32, this else gets executed. So if only if this condition is true, the second condition will be checked, and when both the conditions are true, I'll get this output. If first condition is true, second is false, then I'll get this output. If first itself is false, then I'll get this output. So guys, this is how we can define nested if statements. Guys, moving forward, we are going to look into the loops. So what is loop? Loops in Python are control flow structures that allow a block of code to be executed repeatedly. For instance, I want to print numbers, let's say ranging from 1 to 500. Now it would be a tedious task to, let's say, print these numbers manually one by one. As in, this is not an approach anyone would recommend, right? Suppose I want to print numbers from 1 to 10. So if this is the approach I'm following, that's an absolutely tedious approach. So because I do see a pattern coming. What is the pattern? That my starting point is 1, my ending point is 10 maybe, or maybe 500. So I do see a pattern coming, right? So to capture this pattern, we can utilize loops. So loops are the flow control structures that allow a block of code to be executed repeatedly. Now there are two types of loops in Python, namely for loops and while loops. So let's understand the use of for loops in Python. So guys, for loop is used to iterate over a sequence. Now when we talk about sequence, we talk about data types such as list, tuple, string, or range, maybe set, and even dictionary. So the loop executes a block of code for each item in the sequence. Alright, so for each item in maybe list or tuple, or even each item in the string, which happens to be the characters, we can iterate. Iterate means to, let's say, traverse over the sequence one item at a time based on the step size. Now for loops essentially utilize a function called the range function, in which we have three parameters, namely start, end, and step. Now if we were to iterate in the ascending order, the iteration proceeds from start till end minus 1 where the step size is positive. In the descending order, the iteration proceeds till end plus 1 where the step size happens to be negative. Now what are the start, end, and step? Start indicates the position or the index where we need to start the iteration. End indicates the position or index where the iteration ends. But in ascending order, iteration proceeds till end minus 1. In the descending order, iteration proceeds till end plus 1. And the default step value is 1. Means by default, after, let's say, start index is 2. So after 2, 3 will come. After 3, will iterate on 4 because the step size is plus 1. However, if need be, we can change this. Range works only on integers and the default start value is 0. So if we only pass one number in start and in the range function, it will consider it as end. Alright, so if only one value is present, then it is the end value. I'll give you an example to better understand this concept. How do we write this for loop syntax? I can write it like this. For I in range, suppose I'm writing 5, and then if I print I, so what is it going to return? See, range 5 means what is the start value? Start value is 0, the end value is 5, and what is the step size? The step size is plus 1. If only one value is given, that is end. Default start is 0, default step is 1. So because 0 to 5, this is in ascending order, so it will iterate till end minus 1, which is 5 minus 1. So the output is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Please observe the output that we are getting over here is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if I wish to display it by default, it will be displayed Vertically, if I wish to display it horizontally, what can be done? I can write end is equal to space. So after every I gets printed, there will be a space and then the next I will be displayed. So same output but horizontally. I'll give you more examples. Now for I in range maybe 2 comma 7. So what does this indicate? Start is 2, end is 7. What is the step size? Step size is +1. I'll be writing a colon over here, and then now if I print I. So guys, just observe what is the output? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because start is 2, end is 7, and the step size is +1. Let's look at another example. I'm changing the step size. What is I in this in these examples? I is the variable that we are using to iterate in this range or this sequence, right? It can be any variable. It need not be I. For instance, I'm taking Z for I for Z in range. The range I'm considering is maybe 5 to, let's say, 35 with a step size of 3. So if now I'm printing Z. So just observe this. What is my start value? Start value is 5, end value is 35, and what is the step size? Step size is 3. So 5, then we have 5 plus 3. 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 plus 3 is 11, and so on. So just observe this. 5, 5 plus 3, 8, 8 plus 3, 11, 11 plus 3, 14, then 17, 20, 23, 26, 29, and 32. Let's print it horizontally. Alright, so guys, this is how, let's say, step size plays a significant role. Next, we can consider this for Z in range. Maybe let's consider another variable. I'm considering N. For N in range, let's try the descending order, right? For N in range, maybe 10, comma 2, comma minus 1. So because this is descending order, so let's understand how do we know this is descending order. If we were to move from 10 to 2, all right, now we cannot add positive numbers to make to reach 2. So we have to go with negative numbers. And what is my step size? My step size is -1. Only by adding -1, let's say only by considering the first negative number as -1, we can hope to reach 10 to 2 in the descending order direction. Then I'm writing end. So observe this. In the ascending order, the max value that we can iterate is n end -1. Yes, this is what we have discussed so far. But in the descending order, the max value that we can reach is end +1. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. All right. Now, I'll give you another example. For I in range, maybe let's say 20, comma 5, comma -2. Maybe let's say -4. And then I'm printing I, and end is space. So observe the output. So this is 30, 26, 22, 18, 14, 10, and 6. So guys, this is how we can use for loops in the ascending and descending manner. So the start value is 30, the end value is 5, and what is my step size? My step size over here is 4. So guys, I hope these examples are clear to everyone. Next, let's understand the data types on which we can iterate. Now, so far we have discussed strings. Means these are the topics that we'll be covering in the upcoming sessions: list, tuple, set, dictionary. But range and strings we have already discussed, right? So let's understand how to iterate on strings. Now, when we talk about strings, suppose I'm considering a string such as, let's say today. If this is my string, so each and every character in the string, right, it has a dedicated index. Now, the index can be positive, the index can be negative. So I'll give you example. As far as the positive indexes are concerned, they start from 0 in the left to right direction. All right, the positive index start from 0 in the left to right direction, and the negative index start from -1 in the right to left direction. So to further clarify this, I've written this in the comments. Now just observe this. This is the first value, right? So on the top, I've mentioned the positive indexes. At the bottom, I've mentioned the negative indexes. I'm considering the same string today. So how do we iterate over this string? There are two ways. We can, let's say, iterate index wise, and we can iterate element wise. I'll give you both these examples. Now, if I were to iterate, let's say, element wise, so I can simply write it like this. Now, what does I stands for in this particular example? I over here would iterate over each and every element of the string S. That is why this is simply element wise iteration. Please observe, this is element wise iteration. I corresponds to each and every element. Each and every element in the string S. Now, if I were to move index wise iteration, then over here I can write for I in range S, for I in range length of S. Now, what is the length of this string? If I were to check length of this string, what is the length? The length is 5. Length is a function that we can apply on data types such as strings, list, tuple, set, and even dictionary. How do we know the length is 5? Because there are total of 5 characters. If I were to give a space, it becomes 6. So anything and everything enclosed within single and double quotes accounts for the length. This is the index wise iteration. So for I in range length of S. Now if I print I, the length of S is 5, right? So this essentially becomes start as 0 and as length of S. Length of S is 5, and what is my step size? My step size is plus 1. So 0 to 5 with a step size of plus 1. What does this become? This becomes, so I would return the value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Observe this. I would return the value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, but now I wanted to print the strings, right? So to print the strings or to display the characters of the string S, what can be done over here? I can write S of I. Now in the square bracket, when I'm writing I over here corresponds to the index. So this is how we can fetch elements given at a particular index. Please see. So at 0th index we have T, then at 1 we have O, 2D, 3A, 4Y. This is what I've mentioned over here. I can also print it over here S0, S1, S2, S3, S4. And likewise for the negative indexes, I can print it like this: -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5. So guys, this is how the indexing works in Python. These are the positive indexes and these are the negative indexes. Now moving forward, let's understand the use of while loops. So while loop is used to repeatedly execute a block of code as long as a condition is true. Means over here we have to pass a terminating condition. Let's understand this with the help of an example. So over here I'm writing I is equal to 0 while I less than 5. While I less than 5, I'm printing I and then I'm incrementing I. So it is just like for loop with an extended syntax. This is the start value, this is the end value, and this is the step size. So 0 less than 5, is this condition true? Yes, this condition is true. So what am I printing? I am printing I. I is 0. Then after 0 gets printed, what will be the next value printed? I will be incremented with plus 1. So again, because this is a loop, program control will go to the beginning of the loop, and over here I'll check if, let's say, 1 is less than 5. Again this condition is true. 1 gets printed, 1 plus 1 2. 2 less than 5, again condition true. 2 gets printed, 2 plus 1 3. 3 less than 5, condition true. 3 gets printed, then 3 plus 1 4. 4 less than 5, condition true. 4 gets printed. 4 plus 1 5. 5 less than 5, condition false. So as long as this terminating condition is true, the loop gets executed. So over here guys, as you can see, the output is 0 1 2 3 4. Now if I just if I were to change this order of print and I, just observe the change. Now what will happen? After the while loop, after the condition is checked, it will first increment and then print. So 0, it won't print 0, it will print 1. Why? Because 0 is less than 5, but 1 plus 1 is 0 plus 1 is 1. So first it is going to print 1. Alright, then 1 less than 5 condition true, 1 plus 1 2, 2 gets printed. 2 less than 5 condition true, 2 plus 1 3, 3 gets printed. 3 plus 1 condition 3 less than 5 condition true, 3 plus 1 4 gets printed. 4 less than 5 condition true, 4 plus 1 5 gets printed. So even though the condition says less than 5, why are we still getting 5? Because the condition has evaluated on 4. After 4 we are incrementing it by 1. So that is how and why 5 gets printed. So we can call this, let's say, post increment, we can call this pre increment. Alright, now even while loop can be used to work on strings. So let's see how. If I'm considering the same string, so I is equal to 0, alright, while I less than length of string, and then I can print I can also print s of I, and then I plus is equal to 1. So it's the same logic being followed. So 0 is the first index, 0 less than length of string. Yes, length of string is 5. So 0 less than 5, this condition is absolutely true. I'm printing I, and then I'm printing s of I. I is the index and s of I is the element present at that index I, and then I'm incrementing I. So at 0 it generates 0 and t, then 0 less than 5 condition true, so it becomes, so this becomes 1. 1 less than 5 condition is true, so it will print 1o, then 1 plus 1 2, 2 less than 5 condition true, it will become 2d, then 2 plus 1 3, 3 less than 5 condition true, this will give 3a, then 3 plus 1 4, alright, 4 less than 5 condition true, so it will give 4y, 4 plus 1 5, 5 less than 5 condition false, that is where the loop will terminate. Alright, so guys, this is how we can utilize while loops as well. Now we do have couple of loop control statements that, let's say, control the structure, how the loop operates. So we have two statements, essentially break and continue. Break returns the program control out of the loop, and continue returns the program control to the beginning of the loop. I'll give you an example. Over here, if I'm writing for I in range, let's say 10, 20, if I, let's say, mod 3 is equal to 0, then I'm breaking it, else I'm printing I. What is it going to do? What is the start value? The start value is 10, the end value is 20, and what is the step size? The step size is plus 1. So what is it incrementing over here? Between the range 10 to 20, right? Between the range 10 to 20, I'm checking if the number is divisible by 3. If at all the number is divisible by 3, just simply break the program control, break the loop control. So the moment the break keyword is encountered, program control goes over here, currently where the cursor is blinking. Means the entire for loop structure will be broken down, and irrespective of what the current value of I holds, simply the program control will break. It returns the program control out of the loop, right? So the program control that allows it to, let's say, loop in the same pattern, following the same pattern, that will be broken down the moment the break keyword is encountered. So the initial value of I is 10. 10 gets printed using, let's say, this print. 11 gets again printed using this else. 10 and 11 gets printed using else, because the initial value of I would be 10, then 11 based on the step size. But the moment I becomes 12, the moment I becomes 12, right? 12, maybe 15, and then 18. So it will break. So on, let's say, on the first occurrence of 12 itself, it is going to break. ये यहीं पे आपका break हो जाएगा. Let's see. So the output that I'm getting is 10 and 11. To further extend this example, what if I change it like this? What if I change it like this? Now what will happen? We'll get 10, 11 from here, we'll get 12 from here, and then it will break. So now the output will be 10, 11 and 12. Alright, now my output is 10, 11 and 12. Likewise, we can have continue. What is continue going to do? It returns the program control at the beginning of the loop. Also we can say, let's say, the condition at which continue is encountered, that value is skipped. Those values or that particular value will be skipped. So let's consider the same example with continue. Now in this example, what do we see? For I in range 10, 20, if I mod 3 is equal to 0, it will continue. So basically it will skip these values. It will skip these values. Which values are we going to skip? 12, 15 and 18. Just observe the output. So guys, we have 10, 11, 13, 14, 16, 17 and 19, but we don't get to see the values 12, 15 and 18, because the moment the program control encounters continue, what it does, it returns the program control at the beginning of the loop. So the moment the program control goes to the beginning of the loop, the step size is incremented. All right. So the moment the continue is encountered, this program control goes to beginning and the step size is incremented. What if I change the order? The order of these two values. Just observe this. Now, if I were to write it like this, I'm writing continue over here, and also I'm writing print over here. Now, what will be the scenario? We'll only get the output 12, 15 and 18 because these values will be skipped. All right. Otherwise, these values will be skipped when the continue keyword is encountered. So guys, that brings us to the end of this session. So in this session, we have understood how to use conditional statements. We have seen how do we utilize loops. We have understood and we have, let's say, executed the syntax of for loops and while loops as well. And we have also implemented the loop control statements. So guys, in the next session, we'll be understanding the concepts of functions and modular scripts. Thank you.